or sat in the cold metal chair, his three-fingered hands folded on the table. Across from him, the historian adjusted her recording device. She was young, too young to remember the war. Her eyes held curiosity, not fear. That was good, or thought. Fear should be reserved for those who deserved it. "Tell me about Earth," she said. Or closed his eyes. The memories came back like a flood. 20 cycles had passed since the war, but he still saw it clearly, every moment, every mistake. "We thought they would be easy," he began. The Dominion had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. 47 species had fallen before their fleets. 47 worlds now paid tribute, their people working in factories, mining ore, serving masters. It was the natural order. The strong conquered the weak. The advanced ruled the primitive. Earth was supposed to be conquest number 48. The scouts had sent back their reports. The planet was rich in water and minerals. The dominant species called themselves humans. They were weak creatures, living barely 100 years. Their technology was centuries behind them. They still used chemical rockets to reach their own moon. They fought among themselves constantly, wasting resources on petty conflicts. Perfect targets. Or had been a commander then, young and ambitious. He led a battalion of the finest warriors. When the invasion fleet gathered at the edge of their solar system, he felt pride. This would be a glorious victory, quick and clean. Perhaps he would earn a promotion. The fleet numbered 200 ships, massive destroyers, armed with plasma weapons that could melt mountains. Carrier vessels filled with soldiers and war machines. Support ships carrying supplies for the occupation. It was more than enough force to crush any resistance. They entered human space without warning. That was tradition. Give the enemy no time to prepare. Strike fast, strike hard, make them understand that resistance was futile. The human moon came into view, or watched from the bridge of his ship as they approached. Small vessels appeared on the sensors. Human ships, barely worthy of the name. They were primitive things, built from steel and combustion engines, like insects challenging a hurricane. The communication channel crackled to life. A human face appeared on the screen. He was young, with dark hair and determined eyes. The translator converted his words into language. "This is Captain of the Earth Defense Force. You are entering protected space. Turn back now." Laughter rippled through the bridge. Protected space. These primitives actually thought they could defend themselves. The fleet commander responded. "You have one chance. Surrender your world, accept rule. You will be allowed to live as servants, refuse, and you will be destroyed." Or expected fear, expected pleading, expected the human to realize how outmatched they were. Instead, Captain smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "You picked the wrong species," the human said. The communication cut off. "Foolish creatures," the fleet commander muttered. "Destroy them." The human ships attacked. It was brave and stupid at the same time. Their weapons were pathetic. Missiles that moved slower than fighters. Bullets made of metal that bounced off energy shields. Lasers that barely scratched the hull. The fleet opened fire. Plasma beams cut through space, striking the human vessels. One by one, they exploded in bright flashes. Debris scattered across the void. But something was wrong. Or watched closely. The human ships were not retreating. Even when their vessels were breaking apart, even when their hulls were on fire, they kept fighting. They rammed damaged ships into fighters. They detonated their own engines near supply vessels. They fought until there was nothing left to fight with. One human ship, its engines destroyed and its hull breached, drifted toward a destroyer, or could see the pilot through the crack. The human was bleeding, his suit torn. He should have been unconscious. He should have been dead. Instead, he was smiling, and the ship's remaining missile launcher was still active. The missile hit the destroyer's weak point. The explosion killed 300 soldiers. "Insanity," someone whispered on the bridge. But they had won. The human defense was destroyed. The fleet moved toward Earth. Or's battalion was part of the first landing force. They descended on the eastern continent, in a region the humans called Korea. Intelligence said it was a densely populated area with valuable infrastructure. Take it quickly, and the humans would see that resistance was hopeless. The landing pod slammed into the ground, or emerged in his combat armor, weapon ready. Around him, 2,000 soldiers formed ranks. War machines rolled out of the transport ships. Drones filled the sky. The human city lay ahead, buildings of concrete and glass, roads filled with abandoned vehicles, or expected panic, expected chaos, expected the humans to run. Instead, the attack came from everywhere at once. Explosions ripped through the landing zone. Soldiers fell, their armor pierced by metal projectiles. The buildings were not empty. Human soldiers fired from windows, from rooftops, from underground tunnels. They used weapons that should not have been effective against armor, but somehow they found weak points. A vehicle exploded near Or. He dove for cover, his training taking over. But this was wrong. The intelligence report said humans would surrender when faced with superior force. They said humans valued their lives above all else. They said conquest would take days, not weeks. They were wrong. Or watched a human soldier charge a war machine. The machine's guns cut the human down, but not before he attached an explosive device to its leg. The explosion crippled the machine. More humans emerged from the rubble, dragging the wounded warrior away even as they continued firing. By nightfall, the landing zone was secure, but Or had lost 100 soldiers. 100 soldiers to take one city block. Against a primitive enemy, it made no sense. He filed his report that night. Humans are more dangerous than expected. Recommend caution. High Command dismissed his concerns. You are fighting the last survivors. The rest will surrender soon. But Or knew better. He had seen the look in the human soldier's eyes as he charged the war machine. It was not the look of someone fighting to survive. It was the look of someone who refused to lose. The historian interrupted his thoughts, and that was just the first day. Or nodded slowly. That was just the first day. We thought we had won. We had no idea what was coming. The first month of occupation should have been the easiest. That was what the manual said. Break the enemy's military, secure the major cities, wait for the government to surrender. Simple, efficient, proven across 47 conquests. But humans did not read manuals, or stood in what used to be a human military base. His soldiers had taken it after 3 days of fighting, 3 days for one base. The walls were with plasma burns. Bodies lay in the courtyard, both and human. The humans had fought room by room, refusing to yield even when the battle was clearly lost. "Commander, we found something," his second officer called. In the base's command center, they discovered maps. The humans had marked every position, every landing zone, every supply route. They were planning something. "They are beaten," the officer said. "What can they plan?" Or studied the maps. Red circles marked weak points. Blue lines showed escape routes. Green triangles indicated supply caches. The humans had been preparing for a long fight. They never intended to win the first battle, or realized. They intended to survive it. Over the next weeks, the pattern became clear. Humans did not fight like any species they had encountered. They did not mass their forces for glorious last stands. They scattered. They hid. They struck from shadows and vanished before they could respond. A patrol would enter a village. Everything would seem quiet. Then explosions. Gunfire from hidden positions. The patrol would call for reinforcements, but by the time help arrived, the humans were gone. Only bodies remained, both and human. The humans always took their wounded but left their dead with weapons still in their hands. One night, Or's camp was attacked by humans led by 2 warriors named, and they came in darkness, cutting through the perimeter with silent efficiency. They destroyed fuel tanks and ammunition stores. They killed sentries. and then they disappeared into the forest before the alarm even sounded. Or reviewed the security footage afterward. The two humans moved like ghosts. They communicated without words. When one was injured by a guard, the other dragged him away while still firing. They could have escaped faster by leaving the wounded behind, but they did not. They value each other more than victory, or noted in his report. This makes them unpredictable. High Command's response was brief. Increase patrols, show strength, they will break. But they did not break. 3 months into the occupation, Orr's battalion captured a human medic. Her name was. She was young, maybe 25 human years. She had been treating wounded soldiers in an underground clinic when they found her. Or questioned her himself. The interrogation room was cold and bare. Sat calmly despite her injuries, despite being captive, despite knowing she might die. "Why do you fight?" Orr asked. "You cannot win. Your military is broken, your government is gone. Surrender and the killing stops." Laughed, actually laughed. It was a sound Orr would never forget. "You don't understand us at all," she said. "Then explain." She leaned forward, her eyes bright despite the pain she must have felt. "We have been fighting each other for 10,000 years. Wars over land, wars over beliefs, wars over resources. We nearly destroyed ourselves a dozen times. We built weapons that could end all life on our planet, and we kept fighting." "That proves you are foolish," Orr said. "No," replied. "It proves we know how to fight. Every human alive is descended from survivors, from people who refuse to give up. You think you are our first alien enemy. You are just another invader, just another conqueror. And we have been dealing with conquerors since we lived in caves." Or felt something cold settle in his chest. "You will lose." "Maybe," admitted, "but you will lose more. Every day you stay here, more of your soldiers die. Every week we learn more about your technology. Every month we get stronger while you get weaker. How long before your people back home start asking why this easy conquest is taking so long?" She was right. Casualties were mounting. Supply lines were constantly under attack. Soldiers were exhausted from endless patrols. And still, the humans fought. Or reported everything to High Command. He told them about the guerrilla tactics, about the human resilience, about the warning from. He recommended negotiation, withdrawal, anything but continuing this grinding war. The response came from the High Council itself. "Commander," or "you are relieved of doubt. Victory is inevitable. The humans are simply taking longer to break. Continue operations." So they continued. 6 months in, a major battle occurred near the coast. A human force led by an officer named had been surrounded. 2,000 soldiers against 300 humans. It should have been a massacre. Or watch from his command ship. The humans were trapped with their backs to the sea. No escape, no reinforcements. They should have surrendered. Instead gave an order that made no tactical sense. The humans charged, not away from not toward cover, directly at the lines. "Suicidal," Orr's officer muttered. But it worked. The unexpected charge broke the formation. Humans crashed into soldiers with a fury that went beyond training or tactics. They fought with fists when their guns ran empty. They used their own bodies as weapons. Some detonated grenades while grappling with warriors, killing both. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, and 70 humans had broken through the lines and escaped into the mountains. Over 600 soldiers were dead. Or could not sleep that night. He kept seeing the look on the human faces during the charge. They were not afraid. They were not mindless. They were determined. They knew many would die, and they charged anyway. He pulled up the database on conquered species. He read about how other races had surrendered, how they had accepted defeat when faced with overwhelming force, how they had calculated the cost and chosen survival over resistance. Humans did not calculate like that. Humans calculated differently. To them, some things were worth more than survival: freedom, dignity, revenge. or began documenting everything in his private files. The unusual tactics, the psychological profiles, the way humans seemed to tolerate pain beyond their biology, how they fought for 72 hours without rest when soldiers needed sleep after 24. He noted how human soldiers would fight harder when defending their homes, how they created complex tunnel systems to move unseen, how they learned to use weapons after studying dead soldiers' equipment. Most disturbing of all, he noted how humans seemed to be learning faster than they were adapting. His private log entry from that night read, "We are not fighting a primitive species. We are fighting a species that evolved to survive. Evolution has made them into something we do not understand. They are persistence hunters. They do not stop. They do not quit, and we have awakened them." The historian looked at or with new understanding. "You knew you would lose." "Not then," or admitted, "but I suspected we had made a terrible mistake." 3 years into the occupation or stood in the ruins of what used to be Seoul, they controlled the major cities. They held the ports and the airports. Their ships orbited the planet. On paper, they had one. But paper meant nothing here. The city was a nightmare of urban warfare. Buildings became fortresses. Sewers became highways. Every street corner could hide death. They held the major roads during the day. At night, the humans owned everything. Or had lost half his battalion, not in one glorious battle but slowly, one patrol at a time, one ambush at a time, death by 1,000 cuts, and the humans just kept coming. New fighters appeared to replace the fallen. Sometimes they were soldiers. Sometimes they were civilians with guns. Sometimes they were children with explosives. That thought made or sick, but he understood now. Humans fought because they could not imagine not fighting. Surrender was not in their nature. "Commander, the supply convoy was hit again," his officer reported. The third convoy that week. Humans had learned the routes, learned the schedules. They struck with captured weapons. Plasma rifles taken from dead soldiers. Energy shields stripped from destroyed vehicles. The humans were not just fighting. They were learning, adapting, evolving. A human engineer named Sara had become legendary among the forces. She led teams that hacked technology. They captured a supply ship 6 months ago. Within weeks, humans were using plasma cannons. Within months, they were modifying them to be more effective. Or had seen a video of Sara explaining captured technology to other humans. She spoke with confidence, breaking down complex systems into simple terms. She was brilliant, and she wanted the dead. High Command sent orders: find and eliminate the human engineer. Or tried. He sent his best soldiers. They found Sara's workshop in an underground bunker, but by the time they breached the entrance, she was gone. The workshop was empty except for one thing: a bomb. The explosion killed 20 soldiers. Humans were not just learning technology. They were using it better than they did. The worst moment came in the eastern sector. A human commander named Minyu orchestrated an attack that still made Or's blood cold. An entire armored division, 50 vehicles, had been moving through the mountains. They had air support. They had scouts. They followed protocols. Minyu had been waiting. The humans had captured 3 plasma artillery pieces. They set them up in the mountains, hidden in caves. When the division entered the valley, Minyu sprung his trap. The plasma fire came from above, hitting the vehicles from angles that shields were not designed to protect. The entire division was destroyed in 15 minutes. 50 vehicles, 800 soldiers gone. Or went to the site afterward. The human positions were empty, but they had left messages, scratched into the cave walls in language: "Leave our world." High Command's response to the disaster was predictable: send reinforcements. The humans are desperate. This is their last gasp. But Or knew better. This was not desperation. This was confidence. The humans believed they could win. More disturbing reports came from other fronts. A human pilot named had crashed her fighter into a command carrier. She could have ejected. Her fighter was damaged, but she was not injured. Instead, she pointed her craft at the carrier's bridge and accelerated. The impact killed her instantly. It also killed 2,000 officers, including 3 generals. Humans called it a sacrifice, called it insanity, but it worked. The entire Northern Fleet Command was gone. It took weeks to reorganize, and the humans used those weeks to capture more territory. Or began having nightmares. He dreamed of human faces, of soldiers who fought until their bodies gave out, of civilians who picked up weapons when the soldiers fell, of children who looked at him with hate pure and simple. He called a meeting with his officers. "We need to discuss our situation honestly." They gathered in the command room, 12 officers, all veterans, all exhausted. "We are losing," Orr said. Silence. No one wanted to admit it, but everyone knew. "Look at the numbers," he continued. "We started with 200,000 soldiers on this continent alone. We are down to 80,000. The humans started with perhaps 50,000 trained military. Now they have 200,000 fighters. They are recruiting faster than we can kill them." "They are untrained civilians," one officer protested. "Untrained civilians who know the terrain, who speak the language, who fight for their homes," or pulled up casualty reports. "We lose 10 soldiers for every human we kill, 10 to 1, and there are billions of humans." "What are you suggesting?" another officer asked quietly. "I am suggesting we tell High Command the truth. This planet cannot be conquered, not by conventional means, not without killing every human, and maybe not even then." He pulled up another video. It showed a human soldier fighting despite having lost an arm. The man picked up a rifle with his remaining hand and kept shooting. He did not stop until a plasma bolt finally killed him. "They do not stop," Orr said. "I have seen humans fight for 72 hours without rest. Impossible by our biology, but they do it. I have seen them continue fighting with injuries that should have killed them. I have seen them rescue wounded comrades while under fire, when leaving them would be tactically smarter." "They are stupid," an officer said. "No," Orr shook his head. "They are something we never prepared for. They are a species that evolved by refusing to give up. On Earth, the strong survive, but more importantly, the stubborn survive. The ones who keep going when others quit. That trait, across billions of humans, makes them unbeatable in a war of attrition." He sent his report to High Command. It was detailed. It was honest. It was a recommendation to negotiate withdrawal. The response came from the High Council. "Commander," or "your defeatist attitude is noted. You are hereby removed from command. Your replacement will restore discipline and achieve victory." Or was reassigned to a supply base, away from the fighting, away from the decisions, but he still heard the reports. His replacement lasted 2 months before being killed in a human ambush. The next commander lasted 3 weeks. From his supply base, Or watched the war spiral downward. Human attacks became more coordinated, more daring. They hit positions deep behind the lines. They destroyed orbital defense platforms. They somehow managed to launch fighters into space using captured engines and human ingenuity. The breaking point came when a human strike team infiltrated a biological research station. They stole samples, technical data, medical records, or heard about it through the rumor network. The official reports said nothing, but soldiers talked. They said the humans were building something, a weapon specifically designed to target physiology. It made sense. Humans had been studying their enemy for 3 years, learning biology from captured soldiers, from autopsies, from prisoners who talked rather than face human interrogation methods. Or thought about the medic he had questioned years ago. She had said humans would learn. She had said humans would get stronger. She had been right about everything. The historian interrupted his thoughts. The bioweapon, did they use it? Or nodded slowly. They did, but not how you might think. They built it. They let us know they had built it, and then they offered us a choice. What choice? Leave or die. 5 years into the war, everything changed. Or was still at the supply base when the reports started coming in. Human forces were moving, not small guerrilla teams, entire armies. They appeared from underground facilities that the never knew existed, from mountain bunkers, from coastal fortresses hidden beneath the waves. The humans had been building strength in secret. Impossible, the base commander said, staring at the tactical display. Where did they get the resources? Or knew the answer. The humans had been stealing supplies for 5 years. Every convoy ambush, every base raid, every captured ship. They had not just been fighting, they had been preparing for this moment. The offensive began on all continents simultaneously. It was coordinated with precision that shocked the command. These were supposed to be primitive creatures. Instead, they fought with the discipline of a species that had been waging war since before the had. A human special forces operative named led the first major strike. His team infiltrated the orbital command station above Earth, not with force, with intelligence. They had learned security protocols. They dressed in captured armor. They walked right in. By the time they realized what was happening, his team had planted explosives throughout the station. The commander had time to sound one alarm before the charges detonated. 3,000 personnel died in the explosion. The orbital command network went dark. Suddenly, the fleet above Earth was blind and confused. Human ships launched from hidden bases. They were strange hybrid designs, human hulls with engines, Earth weapons combined with captured plasma cannons. They should not have worked, but they did. The space battle lasted 6 hours. The fleet was larger and more powerful, but the humans fought with the same desperate fury they showed on the ground. They used kamikaze tactics. They rammed damaged ships into vessels. They fired until their weapons melted. The fleet pulled back to defensive positions. For the first time, humans controlled the space above their own planet. On the ground, the situation was worse. Or's base came under attack within days of the offensive starting. The assault was led by human forces using weapons and tactics. They moved like soldiers. They used formations, but they fought with human intensity. The base fell in 3 days, or was captured along with 200 survivors. He expected execution. Instead, he was taken to a human command post. There he met a scientist named. She was middle-aged with tired eyes and steady hands. She showed him a laboratory. "This is what we have been working on," said. Or saw vials of liquid, medical equipment, testing chambers. His blood went cold. The bioweapon. "Yes," confirmed. "It is a virus, engineered specifically for biology. We studied your people for 5 years, your captured soldiers, your dead, your medical records from the research station. We know exactly how to kill you." Or felt fear for the first time in years. "You will release it." Looked at him with an expression he could not read. "That depends on you." "On me." "You are being taken to the negotiation site. Your high command has finally agreed to talk. You will tell them what you have seen, what we are capable of, and you will tell them about this." She held up one of the vials. "One drop of this in your air supply, one contaminated soldier returning to your fleet, one infected individual reaching and your species dies. You would commit genocide," or asked. "We would end this war," replied. "We did not want this fight. You came to our world, you killed our people, you tried to make us slaves. Now we are giving you a choice. Leave and live, stay and die." Or was loaded onto a transport with other prisoners. They were taken to what used to be a military base. Now it flew human flags. Guards had been replaced with human soldiers. In the command center, Or saw the human leaders. Military officers in worn uniforms. Political leaders who had survived years of occupation. Scientists who had built weapons from scraps. And at the center, Commander Ara. Ara was not the highest-ranking human, but she was clearly the one in charge. She was tall, her hair from stress or age. Her eyes were hard or recognized her type, a warrior like him. Commander Or, Ara said, we have read your reports, the ones you sent to your high command, the ones warning them about us. You intercepted our communications, or should not have been surprised. For 3 years now, Ara confirmed. Your encryption was difficult but not impossible. We knew every troop movement, every supply schedule, every attack plan. Or felt sick. The war had been lost years ago, they just did not know it. Your high command is on the way, Ara continued. They have agreed to negotiate. They do not want to, but they have no choice. Their fleet cannot break our defenses. Their ground forces are losing, and they know about the bioweapon. Will you use it? Or asked. Ara was quiet for a long moment. Do you know what makes humans different from them? We choose when to stop fighting. We could have built this weapon years ago. We could have released it and killed every on Earth. We did not, because we are not monsters. You are warriors, Or said. Yes, but we are also civilized. We know the difference between war and genocide. We will not exterminate your people, but we will not let you stay here either. A ship arrived in orbit. The negotiation team descended. High Council members in their formal robes, fleet admirals, political advisors. They looked uncomfortable, being on a human planet as guests rather than conquerors. The negotiation took place in a large room, humans on one side, on the other, or was brought in as a witness. Commander Ara spoke first. You came to our world uninvited. You killed millions. You thought we would surrender because we are primitive. You were wrong. The High Council representative replied with typical arrogance. You have fought well, but you cannot truly defeat us. We can bring more ships, more soldiers. We will bury you in numbers. Ara smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Can you? Our intelligence says otherwise. Your people are war-weary, 5 years of casualties for one planet. How do you explain that to your population? How do you explain that primitive humans killed hundreds of thousands of your best soldiers? The representative had no answer. Ara continued. We are offering you a way out. Withdraw all forces from Earth. Sign a treaty recognizing human sovereignty. Never return to our system. In exchange, we will not use the bioweapon. We will not pursue your fleet. We will let you leave with your honor intact. And if we refuse, the representative asked. A human scientist stepped forward. She held up a vial. Then we release this. Your soldiers on Earth die in weeks, your fleet in months, and when someone carries it to your species dies in years. We have engineered it to be highly contagious among. It will spread faster than you can contain it. The room was silent, or watched the High Council members exchange glances. They were calculating, weighing options, but the answer was obvious. They could not win. The representative spoke carefully. These terms are acceptable, we will withdraw. Ara nodded. One more thing, Commander Or tried to warn you, he wrote reports. He told you we were dangerous. You ignored him, he deserves better. She looked at Or. You are free to return to your fleet, or you can stay here. We do not forget those who speak truth, even when it is difficult. Or felt something he had not felt in years, respect from an enemy. I will return to my people, he said. They need to understand what happened here. The treaty was signed that day. Within a month, every soldier was off Earth. The fleet departed, or watched from a transport ship as the planet grew smaller. He felt relief, and shame, and something like admiration. Humans had not just defeated they had chosen mercy when they could have chosen extinction. The historian's recording device blinked softly in the quiet room, or sat back in his chair, his story nearly finished. 20 cycles had passed since the withdrawal. 20 cycles since the Dominion learned that they were not invincible. What happened after, the historian asked, after your fleet left Earth? or closed his eyes remembering, everything changed. The journey back to space had been quiet, too quiet. Thousands of soldiers crammed into ships built for war, now carrying them away in defeat. Many were injured, all were exhausted. Some wept, did not cry often, but they cried then. Or spent the voyage writing. He documented everything he had learned about humans, their tactics, their psychology, their refusal to surrender. He wrote it all down because he knew others would not believe him without proof. When the fleet arrived home, there was no celebration, no parade for returning warriors. Instead, there was silence. The people watched their defeated military with shock. The news networks broadcast footage from Earth, images of human fighters using weapons, videos of the destroyed orbital command station, recordings of the treaty signing. For 3,000 years, they had been undefeated. That myth died in the space of one broadcast. The High Council tried to control the narrative. They said it was a strategic withdrawal. They said Earth had no resources worth the cost. They said the war had been a success by other measures. But the people were not stupid. They had seen the casualty lists. They knew the truth. The Dominion began to crack. Other conquered species saw the images from Earth. They saw that the mighty could be beaten. Rebellions started on 3 worlds within a year, small at first, then growing. The military was stretched thin, trying to hold an empire that was coming apart. Or was called before the High Council. He expected punishment for his reports, for his warnings. Instead, they asked him to speak. "Tell us about the humans," the council leader said. "Tell us what made them different." So, or told them. He explained how humans evolved as persistence hunters, how they chased prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion, how that trait translated into warfare. Humans did not need to be stronger or faster. They just needed to outlast their enemy. He told them about human psychology, how they fought for concepts like freedom and dignity that they could barely understand, how they would rather die than submit, how every human civilian could become a soldier if their home was threatened. He told them about human learning, how they studied everything, how they adapted faster than any species he had encountered, how they turned weapons against the within months of capturing them. They are dangerous, or concluded, not because they are strong, but because they never stop. The council leader asked the question that everyone was thinking. If we sent a larger fleet, 10 times the size, could we win? Or thought carefully before answering. Perhaps, if you were willing to kill every human on Earth, all 10 billion of them, if you were willing to burn the cities to ashes, to poison the water, to make the planet uninhabitable, then yes, you could win. He paused. But that is not conquest, that is genocide, and even then I am not certain, because humans have spread to their moon, to other planets in their system, and they have our technology now. They will build ships, they will come for revenge, and they will not stop until every is dead. The room was silent. "So we can never return to Earth?" another council member asked. "Not as conquerors," or said, "but there may be another way." The historian leaned forward. "What way?" Or smiled, remembering. 3 years after the withdrawal, something unexpected happened. Earth sent a message, not a threat, an offer. They wanted to open diplomatic relations. The High Council was shocked, confused. The humans had won. They had the bioweapon. They could have launched attacks on space. Instead, they wanted to talk. A delegation was sent to Earth, or was part of it. The Council chose him because he understood humans better than anyone. He had fought them, had been captured by them, had seen their mercy. The transport ship descended through Earth's atmosphere, or looked out the viewport at the planet below. Cities had been rebuilt. The scars of war were fading. It had only been 3 years, but humans were already recovering. They landed at the same military base where the treaty had been signed, or stepped out into Earth air for the first time since his capture. A welcoming committee waited. Human soldiers, diplomats, scientists, and at the front, a face or recognized. Captain, the same human who had faced the invasion fleet 5 years ago, the man who had smiled and said, "You picked the wrong species." He wore the uniform of an admiral now. His eyes were tired, but he smiled when he saw Orr. Commander said, "Welcome back." Admiral Orr replied, "I did not expect to see you again." "Neither did I," gestured to the base. "Come, we have much to discuss." The negotiations took weeks, but these were different from the treaty talks. There was no hostility, no threats. Instead, there was curiosity. The humans wanted to understand the wanted to understand the humans. A researcher named showed or their technology developments. In 3 years, humans had improved plasma weapons by 30%. They had created new engine designs. They had built ships that could travel faster than vessels. "You learn so quickly," Orr said. Smiled, "We are motivated, the galaxy is big, and we know we are not alone anymore. We need to be ready." "Ready for what?" "For whatever comes next. Your people taught us that the universe is full of threats. We will not be caught unprepared again." The final meeting was with the human leadership. Was there, along with Commander Ara and several others. They sat across a table from the delegation. "We are offering an alliance," Ara said simply. "Not because we forgive what you did. We do not. You killed millions of our people. That will never be forgotten. But we are practical. The galaxy is dangerous. Better to have former enemies as allies than as threats." The representative asked, "What would this alliance involve?" "Trade, technology exchange, military cooperation if needed. We will share what we have learned from your technology. You will help us understand the galaxy we are about to enter." "Why?" the representative asked. "Why would you help us after everything?" Answered, "Because we are not like you. We do not conquer for glory. We do not enslave the weak. We believe cooperation is stronger than domination. We believe former enemies can become friends. It is difficult, but it is possible." He looked at Orr. "Your commander here tried to warn you about us. He spoke truth when it was dangerous. That takes courage. There is honor in him, and if there is honor in one, there can be honor in all." Or felt something strange. Humans had defeated his people, had killed his soldiers, had humiliated the Dominion, and now they were offering friendship. The representative signed a preliminary agreement. Trade would begin. Diplomatic missions would be exchanged. Slowly, carefully, humans would learn to work together. On his last day on Earth, Orr walked through a park in Seoul. The city had been the site of intense fighting. Now it was peaceful. Humans walked past him without fear. Children played. An old woman selling food even offered him a sample, smiling as if he were any other customer. Found him there. Strange, is it not? "Very," Orr admitted. "We tried to enslave your people. Now they treat us as guests." "We remember," said quietly. "We will always remember, every name, every death, every atrocity, but we also choose to move forward. That is what makes us human. We can hold both anger and hope, both justice and mercy." Or looked at the admiral. "I have been thinking about what you said on the first day. You picked the wrong species." "I remember." "You were right, but not in the way I expected. We picked the wrong species not because you were too strong, but because you were too human." Laughed. "That is the best summary of the war I have heard." Now, sitting in the cold room with the historian, Orr finished his story. "The alliance holds," he said. "Humans and trade share technology, even conduct joint military operations against pirates. It is strange, it is uncomfortable, but it works." "And what have you learned?" the historian asked, "in all these years?" Or thought carefully. "I learned that strength is not just about power. It is about knowing when to fight and when to make peace. Humans defeated us, but they did not destroy us. That took more strength than winning the war." The recording device beeped. The interview was ending. "One last question," the historian said. "Would you fight humans again if ordered?" or shook his head firmly. No, I would refuse the order. I would tell the High Council they are fools, and if necessary I would warn the humans myself. The historian's eyes widened. That is treason. Perhaps, or agreed. But it is also the truth. I have seen what humans can do. I have seen their fury and their mercy. They are the most dangerous species in the galaxy not because they are strong, but because they will never give up. And I respect them too much to make war on them again. A chime sounded. Or's assistant appeared at the door. Commander, the human delegation has arrived. The historian looked confused. Human delegation. Or stood straightening his uniform. Admiral is visiting. We meet regularly now. He is an old friend. He walked to the door, then paused and looked back at the historian. Put this in your archive. Let future read it. Let them understand what happened on Earth. Because the greatest lesson of the war is simple. Never underestimate humans. And if possible, never make them your enemy. They make much better friends. He left the room. Down the hall he could see the human delegation arriving. Was at the front, older now but still strong. The Admiral saw Or and raised a hand in greeting. Or returned the gesture. Two old warriors, former enemies, now allies. The galaxy was changing, and perhaps Or thought that was for the best.